Good morning, buenos días. My name is Michele Wilkomirsky. I'm a graphic designer and I work in the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso en la Escuela de Arquitectura y Diseño. I will present this conference, which is titled Co-Designing Emergence Design for Coastal Communities, Chile and Aotearoa, a case study. This is a project led in both universities, Auckland University of Technology and the PUCV in Valparaíso, which is led by Dr. Marcos Mortensen Steagall and myself. And we worked with 3 undergraduate students from design, Hazel Hewison, Charlotte Murphy, and Pedro Filun Moreno. So we have in common a thread that is the Ring of Fire. And for emergency design field, this is an issue that brings together both countries and where we can find issues of common interest. The issues that the design deals with especially refer to visual and digital information designs, especially from evacuation information signage. The Chilean geographic conditions make the country a scene from which one can permanently feel the so-called natural disaster threats, putting in a constant way the capacity of our society to rise up from each event and improve its forms of occupation, the space. Particularly in 1960, New Zealand was strongly affected also by a tsunami that it was a disaster in Chile, in Valdivia. This was originator in southern Chile. The effect was caused flooding along the harbor and along portions of Buffalo Beach in Whitianga. New Zealand lies in a geologically unstable zone, straddling 2 moving sections of the Earth's crust, the Pacific and the Australian plates. The natural forces that create the country's stunning scenery presents many hazards, including earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunami storms, floods, and landslides, as well as we do in Chile. So, the cycle of emergencies begins with the event, followed by a response, then a recovery time, and finally rebuilding. Many of us have already lived this cycle, and as an experienced person, we can collect to improve early warning system, in particular, what summons as visual information systems. Everything starts with these 2 systems of detection, the New Zealand Tsunami Detection DART buoys and the Chilean Tsunami Detection's Tri-X buoys. Both systems, what do is to give alerts on our mobile devices, especially sound alerts and reading advices. Early warning systems are complemented by visual information systems that we can design. So, who prepares the population in Chile? The ONEMI, Oficina Nacional de Emergencias. The Oficina Nacional de Emergencias has as an objective to reduce the risk of disasters through mitigation, preparation, alert response, and rehabilitation in order to reduce the loss of life, decrease economic impacts, environmental effects, and protecting lifestyles contributing to sustainable development. For this said, the entity makes available to the population different manuals from their web page, applications and maps that detail those protocols to guarantee an optimal response to situation or state of catastrophe. On the other hand, who prepares the population in New Zealand? It's the NEMA. NEMA has developed a collective identity recognized in all community, offering manuals, publications, materials, maps, and applications to provide all necessary information to New Zealand populace during a civil emergency. On the other hand, we carried out this study of complementary systems to early warning systems in different countries. And we found several design project status on others with partial implementations, such the apps. Especially we have an app in Viña, in Valparaíso, that is Observatorio de la Costa. You can see that below the hazard hub you have in New Zealand, but is partially implemented. So for the phase 1 in this project, we defined locations in Chile and New Zealand to compare the situations. Then we collect the data from the chosen locations. And finally, we analyze and compare both cases, and we made a report. But Pedro advanced in the first prototype. This has to be done like this due to the pandemic situation. So we compare the visual systems of some countries of the firing, and we stopped to study the details of the Chilean and New Zealand systems. Of course, they are different. In Chile, the one who regulates the signage and respective symbols is the traffic directory of each municipality, city hall, which is governed by a single traffic sign and manual in order to guarantee a universal understanding for population. This implies that there is no homogeneity, since each municipality can adapt its indications to the reality of each city. In New Zealand, what we found is more homogeneity, but that we can find on pictures on the web. The emergency signage guides have general considerations. These are universal considerations. Must be located in a visible height. There shouldn't be obstructions for the visuals. The material has to be normed. The structure has to guarantee durability. The size must be related to the maximum range of displays, and the legend must be specific, etc., etc., etc. But in these recommendations, there is no consideration for people with disabilities, for example, like visual impairment, hearing impairment, or cognitive impairment. There are some norms. So, generally, in the field of information design and visual design communication, the end user, the ordinary citizen, is subjected to test and testing in the final stages of design. In co-design methodologies, we try to seek and integrate the future users early, considering them as experts in the knowledge of their physical and social territory, such as a neighborhood. Co-design methods are particularly valuable for eliciting ethical, legal, and social issues that would otherwise be unconsidered. So, in 2019, we started thinking about how to involve neighbors with expert knowledge on their territories for these evacuations, especially in tsunami emergencies. And we designed a first toolkit prototype, which had to be a low-cost one, transportable, printable, or even editable for different conditions. The goal was to use the prototype to build territories and compare the local knowledge with the guidelines that the ONEMI have. This experience is what we thought we may perform in both countries in cities with similarities in this project. This is the final prototype we did in 2019. So we chose two cities. The Chilean case is the city of Puerto Montt in Región de los Lagos. You can see the population over there. It's a coastal city, of course. And what we studied were the evacuation routes. And Pedro took pictures and videos from the evacuation routes, and he found no information design signs in the place. On the other hand, for instance, this example shows the version you may find in a city in the central region of Chile, recently made in Concón. As I told you, each municipality has the power to design its version of the system according to indicated manual, that is universal. This means that the difference that appears depends on who is in charge of carrying out the work and design and maintenance of the system. Generally, these organizations are externals to the municipality, so hence the heterogeneity that we can find. But this heterogeneity does not obey to criteria of design and social use. The case that we chose in New Zealand was Whitianga. In the beginning of this conference, I told you that Whitianga was affected with the tsunami of 1960. That was part of Chilean history and in the South. So, and also because one of our students knew the place very well and had an experience of a tsunami evacuation. So she was our first user experience. So this is Whitianga. You can see the floods that could be in a tsunami situation on the picture on the right. This is the system that they have. In Whitianga, you can see sirens that in this event didn't function. Mobile emergency alerts, as we have. There is a plan that for the community response, and of course the mobile emergency alerts, which older population cannot necessarily read on a device like this. As I told you, due to the pandemic, we were also able to compare both systems and design some visual improvement for a Zynon system that may be tested and evaluated in the future, hopefully with both communities. This is our first prototype. This prototype includes hearing, texture, lights for the nights, and durability and maintenance is included in the plan. These are some of the versions. When you get into the risk zone, these are for the safe zone, which in Chile, most of the cities are not signed. This is the evacuation signage. And here are some conclusions. And number one, design fields such as design for social innovation, integrated design, and transitions design must imply considering citizens with empowerment, responsibilities, and new roles. We must consider them as users, experts with territory knowledge, who could help us to co-evaluate and co-design what they really need, not what we think they need. And finally, the production and life of designs, the materials, the recycling, multifunction, durability, and system sustainability would help us not to overload our planet with unnecessary objects. The next phase, I hope we would take it in this year, is to co-evaluate the sessions, the actual systems we have, finally co-design a system prototype or prototypes, it would depend on our communities, iterate these prototypes and test them. Thank you, y ahora, gracias por escuchar.